I really have not.
An hour and 15 minutes on Instagram.
I dispute that.
I mean, it's a computer. It's not going to lie to you. So, messages, Marco Polo, Planoly, mail, Google Photos, and then Facebook. 1 minute on Facebook versus 1 hour and 15 minutes on Instagram.
I don't think that's true. I think that's a toxic thing you just put on my phone that I'm going to take off.
I'm just saying, if you need to know the real, if you need to know your screen time.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that tip of the day so we can all feel terrible about ourselves. Welcome to I Get It, a podcast for the modern woman who doesn't want to live mediocre. We're balancing babies on our hips, typing out that important email, and flipping pancakes at the same time. Not to mention, keeping things steamy with our husbands right before we put our face mask on for the night. It's not easy, and you are not alone. I'm your host, Tara Wages, and I get it. Welcome to the I Get It podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. If it's your first time, we are so glad that you're here. Currently, our kids are in the closet. I've had people reach out and ask, where are your kids while you're recording this? I know that you're like in a pandemic.
They're all doing their schoolwork in the other room right now.
Yeah, no. We have a projector as our TV, and they rarely get to watch TV during the day. So when we do our podcast, baby's asleep. The big kids are in our master closet watching movies. Yeah. So they are living their very best life.
Which is not huge. It's like the perfect, they can all just lay long ways. And that's about it. Yeah. But it's great because there's no natural light in there.
Yes. So they're safe. For those of you that have been curious about where the children are, very much still present. And yeah, we are now 4 weeks into the coronavirus pandemic. We are surviving most days with a few moments of thriving. Wes Wages is working hard for the money for our family. He is still working many 10-hour days up in our upstairs office, which is also a closet. And so I am alone with 4 children for many, many hours of the day. And so it's been a lot. You have 4 kids, and you know that you want them. And we know that we love them, but you never plan to be alone with them for 24 hours a day. Like that's just never I was never planning to be a house mom, mad respect for those of you that are and thrive and love that. I always saw myself as a working mom. Yeah. So I'm in this whole identity crisis right now. But we're making
You're doing great.
I am trying. And today, ironically, we are talking about cutting out toxins. Children, you are not toxic.
Can't cut them out, though.
I'm not cutting you out. Don't worry. It's just ironic that we're talking about this. But through this pandemic, I've just been very aware at how fragile our mental health is and our mental state. And it's kind of been a buzzword for several years now, talking about self-care and taking care of your mental health. But a lot of the world felt like it only applied to people who are suffering from mental illness, chronic depression or bipolar disorder, borderline personality, things of that nature. And so many of us don't feel like that really applies to me because I'm happy. I'm good. Everything's great. I'm living my life. And now this pandemic hits where anxiety and stress is affecting everyone. I really don't think that anyone is safe from having our mental state be fragile right now.
Absolutely.
I can definitely see and have talked to people that were previously struggling with like a low level of anxiety. Now their anxiety is so much higher, or the depression rates are higher. And, we are so lucky to live in a state where it's gorgeous outside, and that helps so much the mental state. But there are blizzards happening in other parts of our country. We are in mid-April, and there is, I know of 2 places that currently there's a blizzard going on. So we are very lucky in that.
So if you're in a pandemic, Alabama is a great state to live in.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Don't hate on us.
Yeah. Great for the pandemic.
Yes. But we are constantly bombarded with all of these toxins that we don't even realize are toxins in our normal daily life. From our social media feeds to the music we're listening to the shows that we are watching on TV. And we really don't understand how that affects our mental health. And so today I want to talk about cutting those things out.
Yeah.
And certain areas that you could start with that are easy, that they won't hurt too bad. It doesn't take a whole lot of time, and don't act like you don't have the time right now. We're really truly in the best season to cut these things out because a lot of people aren't going to notice, like for the people that have that really toxic friend that they feel obligated to see because of social situations, like now is the best time to slowly separate yourself from that person. I mean, truly. Create healthy boundaries for yourself. And so that is what we are diving into today. And so I want to talk about, one, how these things affect mental state. And it's really interesting because Wes signed us up for a marriage group that's been happening for the last 4 Thursdays. And it ended last night. And the counselor was talking about stressors and how that affects our immune system. And that when we are experiencing...
Dr. Glenn Hill.
Yes, Dr. Glenn Hill. He was absolutely fantastic. When we're experiencing stress, and he said once we hit like 6 minutes is what the studies have shown, cortisol begins to be released to fight off those stressors. And our body doesn't realize the difference between physical stress, like the stomach bug, physical pain, getting a cut on your foot, or emotional mental stress. An argument, a fight, seeing something and it affecting you, a TV show. Those things create cortisol in our bodies to fight those stressors off. And when our body is focused on fighting off the mental and emotional stressors, that means our immune system is being attacked. Our immune system cannot be as strong as it once was because the cortisol it needs to fight is now going to a different part of our body. And I thought that was so interesting that there is literal science behind these outside stressors in the world affecting our physical health. And I think we would all agree in the middle of a worldwide pandemic, our physical health is so important right now. We need our immune systems to be top notch, ready to go to fight off whatever could come our way, know,
absolutely.
And they've linked back so many autoimmune diseases to mental and physical or mental and emotional stressors that have triggered autoimmune disease. And he was sharing last night about him getting shingles, and he had just come through one of the most stressful experiences of his life, and then he automatically gets shingles again, or gets shingles.
Yeah.
And yeah, did you have something you want to say?
Well, it was really interesting. At one point he said, we can remember something 20 years ago, that emotional state, and we could start crying immediately.
Yeah.
But if we remember like a broken leg 20 years ago, that doesn't bring back, we don't start crying because of the pain.
Unless we're talking about your broken leg from 2017.
No,
but that was a mental and that was an emotional stressor for me.
Oh, absolutely.
For physical for you, yeah.
Yep.
Would you agree with that then? Thinking about your leg break?
I mean, I wouldn't start crying because of the physical pain. Neither would you. Not because of the physical pain.
Yeah.
But you could start crying because of the emotional pain.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. I didn't hear him say that. That's a really good point.
To just show you how big of a deal it is for emotional pain,
For sure.
If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. So let me explain. It's free. 2, there's a creation tool that allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so that it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. And that, I'm telling you, is so easy. You just have to kind of wait a week, but it does it all for you. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. So that's what we're kind of trying with this as well. And then also everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So if you want to download the free Anchor app or go to anchorfm.com to get started. And it's been really easy just to sign up and get started. So if you have that idea, if you have that podcast idea you want to do, I highly suggest anchor.fm.
Boom. And so I want to just think about what are these small things, because we may have some really big stressors going on right now. You know, the outside world happening, major marriage stressors, raising kids stressors. So we have all of these big things. So we need to try to eliminate as many of these small things as we can that don't matter, you know, that are affecting us, but we may not realize are affecting us right off the bat.
I will say quarantining at home has relieved a lot of stressors as well.
For you?
Well, I mean, you know, getting 4 kids ready into school, you know, leaving the house at 7 a.m.
Yeah, we hate doing that.
That's a stressor every single morning. That now we don't have to worry about that. Like our mornings start so much better.
Says the man who's not currently homeschooling 4 kids.
True. You've said that. And 2, you know, we don't have that stress of like kids up from school, going to piano lessons and going to a soccer game and doing all this like just busyness of life.
Yeah.
It's all out the window.
Yeah.
That's a big stressor that we've been able to benefit from through this.
During the season. Yeah. For sure. And it really helps me see though, like we're watching more shows, you know, like what are we watching and how do those things affect us? And
I'm not. Tira's watching Schitt's Creek.
And that's not a stressor. I love Schitt's Creek, by the way. But so I think back to the summer of 2014, we were watching Breaking Bad. Wes expected me to watch it for a long time. Finally agreed. He slept through most of it. I have honestly never experienced stress like that. To this day, I think back to that summer and I love Breaking Bad. I love it. But my cortisol, I'm surprised I wasn't sick that entire summer because I was emotionally stressed out every day because we binged it. It wasn't a spread out thing. It was multiple episodes a day for weeks. And I was crazy stressed, but I was in such a healthy state with everything else that in that moment I could take that on. This season, this moment right now where we have all of these other stressors affecting us, it is not the time to watch Breaking Bad. It is the time to watch Schitt's Creek. You know, it is time to turn on The Office and detox your mind from everything else. And so I think it's really just paying attention to the external things that we are putting in to our bodies. And so I'm going to talk about 3 areas that you can work on right now to help eliminate those small things. And one of those things, starting off, easiest thing you can do, social media. And that is breaking it down into what accounts you're on. I mean, there is Facebook, which is the literal number one. Facebook is a ball of stress. They just need to like rename it. There's nothing good on Facebook. It is where all stress comes from, in my opinion. You have Instagram, you have TikTok, you have all of these other things happening. And so going through those accounts and actually thinking, is this serving me? And I'm not talking about get off Instagram. You know, if you need that, totally understandable. I think that there is so much good in having it right now if you are using it wisely. If you are using it to lift you up and to connect with others, then I think it's a great place to be. But going through the individual accounts of what you're following and how is it making you feel in this season? Are you comparing yourself? You know, are you thinking, oh, well, I'm not doing it right, or my kids are like, whatever it makes you feel like, my house is ugly, my house is too dirty. However you feel mentally, whenever you see something, do you feel joy? Do you feel connection? Or do you feel depleted? Do you feel sad? Do you feel disconnect? And simply, if it's not long-term, temporarily just block those accounts or unfollow, because that is something we are on our phones. I'm in a group chat with a lot of my girlfriends, and we're talking about like our screen time right now compared to how it normally is. We are all spending so much time on social media that is the first place to start when thinking of detox.
A lot of people don't realize that you can do screen time measure your screen time on your phone. And I think it's just super important. You know what I mean? As we were talking about that. So on your iPhone, Android, sorry, I don't know. But if you scroll to the left and you scroll down, there's a little thing called screen time. And it tells you, or you can go to your phone settings and search screen time. It tells you how long you've been on your phone every week, every day. So 23 minutes today.
I don't even want to know yet.
Yeah, what is yours?
I don't want to know. Oh.
We find screen time. Let's add it.
I feel like this is a toxic thing that you're putting on my phone.
40. Oh.
I don't know where that's from because I have not been on my phone today.
It's 11:27 this morning, and
I have not.
Well, you've spent 1 hour and 31 minutes this morning on social media. I don't know how, because you've been taking care of the kids all morning.
I really have not.
An hour and 15 minutes on Instagram.
I dispute that.
I mean, it's a computer. It's not going to lie to you. So, messages, Marco Polo, Planoly, Mail, Google Photos, and then Facebook. 1 minute on Facebook versus 1 hour and 15 minutes on Instagram.
I don't think that that's true. I think that's a toxic thing you just put on my phone that I'm going to take off.
I'm just saying, if you need to know the real, if you need to know your screen time.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that tip of the day so we can all feel terrible about ourselves. How are you feeling when you're putting these things in your mind? And same with Facebook. Like, if you need to mute your Aunt Gina right now because she is just putting toxic things into your mind, do it. It's okay. I give you permission to mute Aunt Gina right now. Unfollowing news outlets.
Thank the Lord for that mute button.
Yes.
Versus the unfollow or unfriend.
Because we don't want to offend. We don't want Thanksgiving to be bad this year for unfollowing or unfriending, I guess. But you can mute those people on your Facebook and mute those news outlets that are just not serving you in this moment. I think it's really important that we know what's going on in the world, but we don't have to be bombarded with what's going on in the world. And there is a very big difference. You should be choosing what you're looking at and not it choosing you right now.
Yeah.
And so, start one, social media, cut it out. Number two, think of what kind of like general media you're putting in your mind. Like I talked about Breaking Bad earlier, and I've seen some people, Tiger King is currently like the thing everyone is watching, but I've seen a few people post.
That was like 1 week ago.
Well, you're right. It was 1 week ago. And at this point, it'll be 2 weeks ago. But I've seen a few people post like they're not into Tiger King because it makes them feel terrible. It's animal abuse. And I could not agree more with that. But I was just like so proud of them for not going with the trend and doing what was right for their own mental health. And so thinking about what shows you're currently watching, how does it make you feel when you turn it off? Are you feeling relaxed, detoxed, joy? Or are you turning your TV off every night more stressed than when you turned it on? Yeah. Same with music. I'm starting the day every morning right now playing worship music.
Not just worship music. You are literally playing the same songs over and over by Hillsong United.
I'm playing the same songs over and over. That is true. We are faith-based. And I don't typically do that in my normal everyday life. That is not something.
It has been a change in the last month.
Yes. But I can tell you the difference that has made in how I'm starting my day every day and the mental health that I'm kicking the morning off with. It is driving my daughter crazy. One, she thinks it's our church that is playing that music. So she's like, why do we have to listen to our church every day? And two, she's just like over the same 5 songs every day. But the day I didn't do it, I noticed my attitude was totally different.
Oh, I've noticed it dramatically.
Yes. And so just by starting my day every day with something that's going to uplift me and put positive feelings in my bones, it has made a huge difference. In the afternoons, I'm trying to also expose the kids to like oldies music and 90s music. And I was cooking dinner, and that's when I usually do the 90s. Lunchtime is oldies. And this like heavy metal, like rah, rah, rah came on. And immediately I could just feel the insides of my bodies like get so tense. I got so grumpy. I snapped at Walt, and I was just like, okay, Alexa, next song. I just needed to change
play
it.
Hillsong United now.
I needed to change it immediately because putting that in me, it had affected me so quickly. And that's music that I used to jam out to, but in this moment of
What
life,
was this song?
it's not serving me. I don't know. It was probably
You used to jam out to Rah, Rah, Rah?
Well, it was like rock music, like Stained or something like that. Remember all that?
Yep.
Yeah. And so in this moment, like just thinking about what our external media that we're putting in between music and TV, how that is affecting us and how is it leaving us. That is the easiest change, y'all. I'm not telling you to do anything that's going to take you a long time.
Yeah.
And then the last thing that I would say to really look at, and I'm going to dive much deeper into this at a later time, but our relationships, like I 100% believe that you're the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. That theory was put into my heart or like taught to me back in 2010. And I have lived by that theory for the last decade. And I would say that has changed me more than anything else that I've ever learned, that aside from like Jesus, know.
So right now you're an average age of probably 7 or 8 years old.
That's what I'm saying. I'm going to dive into that more on a later podcast, just because I know physically we are not spending a lot of time with other people right now. That's why these
but
other
you're talking
things,
about the people that are taking up space in your mind.
We're going to get to all that. Yes.
Yeah.
That's why I'm talking about social media and the other media stuff, because that's where that stuff lies.
Yeah.
But you can start to think about that. You can start to think of how your relationships typically make you feel outside of your home. Are those people that just bring you down constantly?
Mm-hmm.
And right now, you are literally physically separated from those people. So once the world slowly starts to acclimate again, it is the easiest time for you to create those boundaries and just not reacclimate with people that are not healthy for you.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm saying I don't want to go super, super deep into that. I just want to touch that surface because it's the easiest time to cut off one of the largest toxins that you could have and to create boundaries with that. But the social media, the people that you're following and those kinds of things, I put those in with the people you spend the most time with. So starting there right now in this season, that's why I think those 2 things are the most important to do.
Yeah.
And so what should you do then? Like, how do you combat this? You start by cutting out those toxins, but then you fill it with other things. You do the opposite of that. And so I encourage you to sit down, like literally sit down with a piece of paper and write down 25 things that bring you joy. 25 things that just literally light a fire in your soul that make you happy. What's something that brings you joy?
You.
Well, obviously.
Recently it's been eating breakfast in the mornings and just us having our time in the morning. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's been a big joy.
Yeah.
Outside our backyard, looking at the sun. It's been great.
Yeah. For me, Hillsong United every morning, worship music, starting my day with that. Vintage clothing. So I'm following vintage clothes people online right now. Other women that are like moms of big families that are sharing openly about this season and not making it look like it's butterflies and rainbows. Fresh cut grass. Hot showers. My shower was not hot today. Hot showers. They can be very, very small, basic things. Elephants. I am obsessed with elephants. I could literally
cry.
I could live my life with an elephant and die happy. Like, they are my passion. But it's small things, and don't send me a bunch of elephant stuff. Don't buy me elephant stuff. I don't like trinkets. I like the actual elephant. There is a difference. But looking at a picture of a baby elephant brings me so much joy. So making the list of 25 things that fire you up, and then how can you incorporate those things into your day? Listening to that music every day, watching those shows, putting a picture of something as your screensaver on your phone that just makes you so happy. It's okay if it's an elephant. I'm not going to judge you if it's an animal and not your child right now.
I have a picture of Tira on my phone.
Yeah, Wes
I just
put my
changed
picture.
this week.
But thinking about what those things are, starting your day with a hot shower. You know, if a hot shower is something that fires you up, make it a priority. I know right now so many of us are just like putting on the sweatpants and floating through our day. For me, getting dressed brings me a lot of joy. It fires me up and it can really transform my entire day and how I feel about myself. So making those things a priority and replacing those toxic things with these small things that just make your heart feel full.
Yeah.
That is a great way to just transform your mental state during the season of separation and aloneness. So thank y'all so much. I hope that that is helpful for someone just to kind of change the way you're thinking right now and taking things out that are not serving you in this season and putting things in that are. I think it's such an easy thing. I feel like it's common sense, but it's something we often just don't do because we're busy and we forget and we don't make the time to sit there and press the unfollow or mute button. But right now, more than ever, is when we need to do that. And I would love to talk to you more if you would follow me at Tira Wages on Instagram. And
obviously, Tira is not a Facebook fan, so
don't find me on Facebook. It's a total waste of time. Find me on Instagram at Tira Wages, and I would absolutely love if you would leave me a review on Apple Podcasts. That words of affirmation. It helps me so much just to continue to move forward and know that I'm doing an okay job.
So if you want to look at the show notes for this episode, tirawages.com/004. You'll have the video, the audio, everything that we've completely talked about. Tira puts together a little package there. So
I do. There's lots of good stuff in there. Life is a little crazy. And there are days that you feel a little crazy, especially when there's excess noise bringing you down. But you are not alone. I get it. Be happy and love each other. Peace.
boom.